Hey y'all, hey. So for those of y'all just joining, we will be talking about control tonight. The wonderful, wonderful topic of control. So for those of y'all who do not know me, my name is Tisa, and I love to cultivate spaces for healing, right? I love to cultivate spaces for healing through writing, having conversations, and coaching. And I love to engage in conversations like these because I believe, Sherry believes, Travis believes, Coach Vaughn believes, right? That having conversations like these, right? These continued conversations aid in our continued evolution as people, as individuals, and, aids in our healing journey, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a short blurb about me. And I will let Coach Vaughn introduce herself to you guys.
Awesome. Well, good evening, kings and queens. My name is Janvoana. I like to introduce myself by saying I am ambitious, I am bold, I am creative, I am determined. I like to start off with those adjectives versus what it is that I do, because of course I want you all to understand who I am at my core. Besides, right, me being a life coach, but I am a life coach. I'm passionate about helping women understand the importance of being fly. First, loving yourself is a concept that I put together to help women to understand that you can't live a true sense of fulfillment in life if you don't take care of yourself first, right? It's not about forsaking all others. It's about prioritizing you so at the end, everybody else can win, right? And I do that by strategically helping them align their goals with actions, holding them accountable and helping them to be whoever the hell they want to be. Just saying.
Fantastic.
I love it.
Love that. Okay, Sharon, Travis, you want to introduce yourselves quickly?
Similar to you ladies, I'm a therapist, so I am passionate about helping people in our community heal, and especially through conversation and writing and through the creative arts, but by challenging the status quo and kind of challenging our conditioned perspectives. So I do think that these conversations are very important, and it's important to get different perspectives in it to kind of get a holistic view of what is happening in our community and in ourselves as well. So yeah.
My name's Travis, and I'm tipsy.
Hey, Tipsy.
I love it.
So, Coach Vaughn, I want to ask you really quickly because I know that your daughter's prom was tonight, right?
Yes. Yes.
And my son's prom was tonight as well. How did the send-off go?
Oh, it was good. Of course, CP time, like we always do, right? Y'all know how we do it, and it's so funny. We live a little over an hour away from the core of our family. We're located in the DMV area. We're near we're in Southern Maryland, whereas most of our family and her father is in Baltimore. So the location is kind of like in the middle of us. And she told everybody to meet her there at 6 o'clock. Y'all know that wasn't happening. The prom starts at 6, right? Her date was coming from Virginia. But it turned out absolutely beautifully. She was very, very happy. And I'm absolutely happy for her as well. So she got there a whole hour and a half late, but she made it, right?
That's right.
She made an entrance as she's supposed to do. So
absolutely.
She understood the assignment.
I am here.
She made an entrance.
Absolutely. What about yours? What about your son?
So I had such an interesting day today. So my day started with we had to bury my best friend's dad this morning. So it started out with the funeral, and then it ended. Well, not ended because it's not the end of the day, but then, I transitioned to sending my son off to prom. For me, I was very excited, right? I'm just going to let y'all know. I cried about it last night. Not to him, but in my mind, I was just thinking about like how proud I am of him as a young man. And, I was tearing up and stuff. But it went well. My son is so so low key, so don't do the most.
Right.
He didn't like. He barely wanted me to come and take pictures. But it was nice. It was I enjoyed sending him off to prom. Today though, I have to be honest, was such a, having this conversation about control. It was such a reminder for me how much we are not in control of things, right? To be burying a person and then to be sending, my almost adult child off to prom tonight, which has its own release of control needs there. But today was a great reminder for me how much we are not in control. So I want to start off by asking you guys, I want to start by saying this. We all love control. As humans, we love the concept of control, right? Mm-hmm. We want to know who, when, what, where, why. We want to know the outcome. We love to know outcomes. We need to know outcomes, right? I want to know from you guys' perspective, Coach Vaughn, I'm going to start with you. Why do you think that, like, what causes us to be controlling?
I love it. That's a great question. And I'm glad that we gave the disclaimer that all of us like a sense of control, right? And sometimes let's all be real, right? We want to be able to determine the outcome, because that's really what control really boils down to. At the root of it, we want to almost guarantee what the outcome is going to be. And I believe that's why we all kind of crave for it. Not knowing the outcome of something can cause so many different ranges of emotions. It can cause anxiety, right? It can cause stress, right? A lot of us, and especially even as women, I would like to even go a step further to say, we just don't want to be disappointed. We don't want to be let down. So therefore, to avoid the inevitable, is what we like to say, to avoid it from happening, let me put things in motion so I can pretty much secure what the outcome is going to be, right? And another thing I like to add to that is, from a perspective of, respect. If you look at control, some people want that respect. Some people want to be looked at from an authority, some type of power, right? It's letting you know, like, okay, I got my shit together, right? Like, okay, no, I'm gonna need you to do this. No, I need it to look that way. No, don't fold those socks like that, right? We wait. see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? So from my perspective, that's what I feel like we all just kind of want, a sense of respect, authority, and also to be able to know what the outcome is going to be, which I'm sure we're going to get into, and I'm going to leave that alone. It's not possible, but we'll go on with that.
I love what you said about for women not wanting to be disappointed. When I think about all the times in my life that I've been controlling, and I'm a recovering control addict, freak, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, but hyper control, I don't know. It all stemmed from not wanting to avoid being disappointed, fear and disappointment. So yeah, I resonate with that. Sherry, Travis, one of y'all want to answer that?
I tend to agree. I think it's a very Darwinism concept, survival of the fittest, right? Like, we want to extend our time on this earth, but we also typically want to extend our time with our relationships, or, even with our relationships with ourselves, right? So like, control in our minds allows us to do that. It gives us more opportunity in our minds to kind of extend whatever our goals are. I completely agree with Coach Vaughn. It's not true, but that's how we feel, right? And the brain is wired to protect itself. So it's always looking for possible negative outcomes, possible challenges, possible trip ups or slip ups to protect itself from. So therefore, I need to be constantly monitoring all these areas in order to keep myself safe.
Absolutely.
As long as we're trying to operate in that sense of control, I do think, like you said, it's an addiction that a lot of us experience because we're trying to protect ourselves and keep ourselves constantly safe. But that also is part of that illusion.
Yeah, illusion.
Yes.
That's gonna be
When
my
I
next
read
question.
that on your post, I was like, oh, yes, it's definitely illusion.
Can't wait to talk about that. But Travis, before we do, I want to, from the male perspective,
Mm.
Tipsy Trav, I would love to know.
That's a
tell
rap
us,
name.
tell
That's a
us,
great rap name.
tell us, from your perspective, do you think from a male perspective it's the same? It's the same thing. Why we like to be
Yeah,
controlled?
yeah. I don't think there's anything gender specific about the answers you guys gave so far. I think they definitely cross the different platforms. I mean, I'm sure there are gender specific manifestations that we might get into later. But so far, I think you guys have done a great job of laying out that foundational underlying bits that hit us all. I don't think there's anything to add that men feel different about specifically so far.
Okay, okay. Well, let me bounce this back to you first. Is control an illusion?
That's interesting. It's too easy to say yes, right? So I'll say like as a life principle, as an overall everyday, as a comprehensive strategy, it might be an illusion, but I think we do have influence. I think we do have some ways to control some outcomes. And to be quite honest, the way the brain was wired, how you guys were saying, the brain operates on a reward system. So there are times when in our lives we have been able to control outcomes. I think that's why we return to the well. Sometimes when we say, hey, you better tell me this, or you better do this, or you better give me that, and then we get those desired responses from the people around us. And like Coach Vaughn was saying, we love it because we've tasted it before. So I think, yeah, I think it's possible to exert our influence and control over certain circumstances and situations, and that's why we keep doing that shit.
I love I love that you use the word influence because I want to ask. Don't answer this question yet, but I want to ask: is control and influence the same thing? But don't answer yet.
Okay.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Sherry, do you think control is an illusion?
I tend to agree with Travis. I don't think perception is reality, right? So if I believe it and perceive it, it becomes a reality. And so I think that there are always going to be things that we have some control over and things we have no control over. And that's a part of the challenge, discerning between the two, knowing what things I can manage and can control and what things I need to let go of. And I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the addiction aspect. We do chase those things that are rewarding to us. So if I never experienced any kind of pleasure or reward from that, I wouldn't continue to probably chase it. But because we have, there have been things we felt we could control. Especially, I know me and Tisa having a similar background, growing up in trauma, you were oftentimes in more control than the adults around you. So we often learn to overly trust those instincts that we could control things because we did have that power and that influence in certain ways, but in some ways we couldn't. And I think that's the part that is hard for humanity to grasp and to kind of hold on to. Like we keep understanding that like error and making mistakes, that's just learning. That's just a process of life. But every time we make one, we hold ourselves to this standard where we really do beat ourselves up because we haven't really held on to that as a truth. We kind of reject the idea that we're going to make mistakes or that we have to learn or kind of go through these processes. So I think it's a discomfort, like you said, not wanting to ever be uncomfortable or never feel pain again or hurt again or, like you said, even being scared again. But I think it's also accepting that those are parts of life. So I can't control those things, but there may be other things that I can kind of control or do to manage life still.
When, I think when you just said about being more in control and, you know, thinking back to my childhood trauma and being more in control than the adults around me, I think I first I don't knew. I definitely didn't understand. It wasn't when I was younger. Understand the concept of control. I wasn't. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I can control this. But it. I'm wondering where I thought. So with my mom being an addict, right? I used to do certain behaviors that I thought would stop her from getting high, and I'm like, and I was like at 8, right? Like my youngest is 8 now, right? And I'm like, I can't even comprehend that I was thinking a certain way at 8 when I look at him. But I was like, what in the world? Like, I legit thought that I used to be crazy. Like, I used to follow my mom around. Like I said, like if I go with you, you're not gonna get high, right? Like, surely you're not gonna get high if I go everywhere with you. Not true. Didn't happen, right? If I keep the house clean, surely you will not get high, because maybe that's why you get high. I don't know. But anyway, I say that to say, like, it amazes me when I was younger, all the things that I thought that I tried to have control over. I don't even know if I thought I had control over. Well, no, I guess I did in a sense. Or that's why I did it, right? But yeah, like for me, to Sherry, you know, I'm processing out loud, but to your point, Sherry, I guess because all the adults and everything else around me was out of control, and to myself, I felt like I had so much control as a kid, or what seemed to be more control. I was like, surely I could control this situation too, right? Yeah. Anyway,
I like what you said, because I think we always think of control as external, right? And I agree with you. Your external environment you couldn't control, so you learn to be very in control of yourself.
Absolutely.
Similar to me. And I think that's where some of that control comes from as well. Like, I may not be able to control my environment. We learned that very early on. Right. So when I cannot, what do? I try to super control myself. Absolutely. And manage everything within myself. And that's also not completely feasible. That's where the learning process comes from. But I do think it shows you that in some ways there are things you were able to manage your parents weren't, because they weren't in control of themselves at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, I do think it's a subconscious understanding where you're like, okay, even for me, it wasn't direct, because I do feel like my family was very much like they're the child's play, right? But they often came to me for advice, or, you know, came to me for what things I felt like I shouldn't have had a say in, or, you know, I shouldn't have been a part of the decision, but you came to me. Those things subconsciously started to make me feel confident in my ability to make certain choices, or my ability to move a certain way, right? So it wasn't very conscious, like, oh, I'm in control, but there was this like confidence, or, you know, some type of subconscious understanding that, like, okay, I'm the one that's more competent to move or do certain things in certain areas. And I think that's where it became very difficult for me to let go of control. Yeah. Because I'm used to seeing everyone is not competent around me. So it's like, you want me to give it up to who?
Right.
Right.
Where?
Well,
terrifying. Why? Yes.
Well, I believe that's, to me, and I love what you just said. You know, to me, that's where really the illusion comes in. The illusion is that we can control external outcomes, people, situations, places, and things, right? We only, I believe, have control over ourselves. And even, of course, we start to talk about the brain, chemical imbalances, trauma. Sometimes our body and our brain is doing things that we can't even control, even in that instance, right? So when we're talking about it, and when you said it, I thought about the Serenity Prayer, which is by far one of my favorite prayers, and that absolutely really helped me with my control issue too, Queen. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can change, the courage to, I apologize, let me say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can change, the courage to change the things that I can, the wisdom to know the difference, right? There are certain things that we can't change, right? That's what you just said. You said, you know what? We need to be able to differentiate. What is it that I truly can control? What is it that I can change? And I start to think about, you know, how in grade school, y'all, we all had science projects. I mean, I did the science projects. I'm more of an IT techie. And we had things that's called variables, right? Controlled, uncontrolled, right?
Mhm.
And then you start to implement and utilize those things in your daily life to understand, you know what? There are too many variables involved for me to think that I can actually control the outcome, right? I'm
Exactly.
going to do my part. I'm going to insert myself. But the outcome, I have no control of. No matter, it can be the same exact ingredients that
Yeah.
everybody do, but once that cake finished baking, it may not like taste like yours. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you say that because I use that specific analogy, and I love that you use that because to me that is the analogy of life, because we think, like you said, we want a specific outcome, but that's not the purpose of experiments. The purpose of experiments is to learn. And
Absolutely.
through having all of these different trials, I then learn what's the best outcome or what's the best path to take for me. But I can't do that until I have all these different trials and tests. And we look at it like the first time I have any test or trial, I'm supposed to have an ideal outcome,
Yeah.
as opposed to,
Yeah.
like you said, like I might have to learn through all these different variables. I didn't have control over the temperature of the oven.
Right.
350 is not the same 350 on every stove. Like there's
Right.
so many factors that you would have to figure out.
Yeah.
And I
Off-brand
think it's
salt,
all me.
off-brand sugar.
Oh my goodness, so many things. And it's like, but that's perfect for life because then we'll say something happens and it's all my fault.
Mhm.
Or it's all my doing, all my success. And it can't be really either because there's so many variables that are a part of that that we're not in control of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that
Especially the
analogy,
outcome. Can we keep
especially
going
the
back to
outcome.
the outcome? We, no matter what we do, and I think about even in relationships, right? I don't know about y'all, but this ain't my first rodeo. This is definitely my last one, right? This is my relationship with my husband. But even in relationships, when you think that you've done it all right, you checked off everything in the box to control the outcome. I got into my first marriage thinking, okay, well, I mean, he a hustler from the streets. Let me clean him up. We got a baby together. Let me make this thing work. I'm going to be supportive. I'm going to be encouraging. I'm going to do all of these things. Therefore, he should be able to fly straight. Therefore, we should be able to live life happily ever after, right? Again, we putting in all of these ingredients, what people are telling us this is what people need in order for this to be successful. However, divorce, right? My time there, unhappy, unfulfilled, right? Again, that outcome, it's a very big thing. It's a very big thing.
Oh, I completely agree. I think that's one of the things that breaks my heart as a therapist because I feel like clients come to me wanting a specific outcome and we can't
Mhm.
control that. And
Right.
even to what you said with relationships, we can only control our part. So then if you're not doing your part, I can't control the outcome. But they
Absolutely.
beat themselves up and they hold themselves to this impossible standard of who they
Mhm.
are and what it means about their worth and all of these things. Because like you said, they may not have been able to do the impossible.
Mhm.
Well, who can? But God Himself, because I can't. Like, I don't know who can.
And he even gives us the option to
Free will?
choose, right?
Absolutely. I said that literally this week to a client. And it's like, I mean, what can we do? He gave us free will. So we have to give each other free will. What we going to hold people hostage because we think it's the right thing to do? I wish people would move that way all the time. But here we are. They don't.
So I want to, Travis, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick, but we have one question from a realist one. Do you all feel like a counselor, also without pay, who actually went into counseling or psychology from their trauma in childhood? So Sherry actually is a licensed therapist, and Coach Vaughn and I are both life coaches. So I hope that answers your question. Everyone isn't ready or capable of receiving that type of love and support.
Exactly.
Yes, fix it mode. We've all been there. Okay, she is a therapist. Yes, she is a therapist. Travis, let me ask you this. What can we control? What do we have control over?
Can I say something to that therapist comment? I feel like we put this goes back to even some of what we're saying. We put emphasis on that title, like there's a therapist, a clinical understanding. It just means textbook, like we just said. Life experience to me is almost as valuable as the textbook, if not more so valuable than the textbook understanding. By the time I became a therapist, me and Travis talked about this, like, I don't know how many times. I probably had the same conversation with Tisa, I don't know how many times, but like he was there when I was studying to be a therapist. And as we were studying, we're like, oh, so this is the term? Because we already had that concept or that understanding,
Yes.
but we're like, so this is the word that goes with that
Yes.
concept? Oh, okay. I really feel like that's what textbooks do. So I feel like if you have self-awareness and self-understanding, there's a lot of people that I consider therapeutic that may not necessarily have the degree. And there's a lot of people that have the degree that I feel like are completely not therapeutic. And that's something
Come
I
on now.
stand by strongly, because I don't recommend people to most people. Like clinical, whatever, whoever, like it doesn't matter your degrees. It matters your knowledge, like your heart, like your like actual healing knowledge. And so from that perspective, it really isn't oftentimes about the degree for me. It's the other information that they have.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. My husband is a psychologist. We have a practice in Waldorf, Maryland, where I handle the life coaching and career mentoring side. He's been in the field pretty much forever, right? And to your point, when I'm having a lot of discussions with him, and again, we respect both of our clients' privacy, but when the terminology comes across, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So that I'm steering her, correctly. It's like, okay, that is textbook, right? So I love the fact that you brought that up, Queen. Thank you so much. And that was a great question, by the way. Great question.
Absolutely, it is a good question, because I do think we should be informed about our choices and our decisions always, too.
Absolutely.
All right, Trav. What do you have control over?
I'm going to say our focus, and that's even still sometimes, but your focus is so powerful. I believe it's like the driving force underneath how your life goes. Because in many of life situations, whether it be work, family, whether it be happy, sad, regardless, your brain and your mind is going to want to focus on multiple things at any given time, whether that be the myriad of things that have happened to you in the past that remind you of this current situation, or all of the ways that this thing could go right or more wrong in the future. Your focus is divine, if I could use that word. And I think that's where our control, if we have any, is in what do we put our attention to? What do we give our energy and our focus to in any given moment makes up what your life is going to look like.
Okay. Jerry?
I like that. My answer is nothing in its entirety, but we can control to some extent our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, our responses, our behaviors. And I do think life is a process of learning to manage that more. I don't know if we'll ever be 100% in control of any aspect. I think that's where learning to let go comes in, and learning what we can't control, nothing totally. And I do think that's the balance of life, because I do believe in balance. So I think if we tried to control everything, that wouldn't even be healthy. So there has to be some release and some letting go and some surrender.
Ooh, that word. Okay. Coach Vaughn, you want to answer that? You want to take that question as well?
Sure. I believe to kind of echo in a concise way what the Queen says without repeating it is the only thing that I feel like we can control is the present. That's it. It's what decisions at this very moment will we choose to make, period. Yes, she called you out your name. It's your decision. Are you going to smack her? are you going to ignore,
Mm.
right? You know, yes, someone hurt you from the past, but do you continue to replay it over and over, or do you release it and let it go? That's the only thing that I believe. And again, when I say the present, it's our present self. No one else, but our present self.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like we're all saying the same thing. I love that. I love that. I love that. I think we can control our response. Yes, I love that. I believe the same. I will say, sorry, I was reading the comments. I too think, to echo kind of all of you said actually, in your own way, is that we can control, once we're aware, we can control the lens, and then the behavior that corresponds to that or with that. Outside of that, I don't think we have control over much else at all.
I agree. And that is so frustrating sometimes.
Absolutely.
Where frustrations come from.
Listen,
I think life would be, my bad, Teach. I think life would be quite boring and dull if we were the sole authors in control of it. Even though it does sound super safe and sounds so pleasant, I think it would be pretty fucking terrible. At least for me, like, it would be so dry. I'd say almost 80 to 90% of my best life experiences have come when I was a little bit scared or nervous or apprehensive.
So good.
And I'm so glad for the moments that I would have gotten rid of out of my life and out of my present. But the fact that I couldn't control it and had to go through it anyway, some of the best experiences of my life came out of that type of moment. I'm glad that I don't have control over this shit.
I'm so glad he brought that up, because because sometimes I'll write a note so I won't forget it. And I put control ? Would we really want to control everything?
Yeah.
Like, to your point, so many situations that I've gone through that I could not control, it's actually, it impacted my growth positively. Like, that has helped me to develop me, right? There's this quote that I created. It wasn't meant to define me, deter me, or destroy me. It was meant to develop me. So those situations that I was a part of, it was all a part of the development process. So I love the fact that you brought that up.
I love that too, because how deeply do you want to be developed? That's another part of it. So
come on now.
Development, or you want to go deep in your development? I love that. Oh, I love that. I like what y'all said. Yeah, because it makes me think of Stepford Wives, and obviously no one like that. Like, that's very boring. Like, your idea of extreme sterile control environment, and no one likes that.
Right.
So it does add flavor and spice and interest to have some things that you can't completely control.
I actually hate routine, right? I hate predictability. I hate I get really bored with it. Like, monotony, like I just, it's something about me that just I don't know. I just get really bored.
Spontaneity, huh? She's like,
yes, like it's funny because people used to always say, like, they used to call me a change agent, right? And I used to be like, I used to go into job. Well, let me backstory. So I used to go into every job and want to, whatever position I was in, I used to want to dissect it, rip it apart, try to find the holes and what was wrong with this so I could, like, piece it back together and, like, make it something new, right? It was like a project that I love to do. I love to, I don't know, shake things up, I guess is what you could call it. And when I started to learn more about myself and how I showed up in people's lives, and I would say that that's true to every aspect of my life, whether it be in relationship or whether it be in a job or whatever. Like, I just love to, like, let's shake it up a little bit, right? So to Travis, to your point, like, as much as I used to love control, or I used to want to control everything, for other reasons. But now, like the thought of being able to control everything if I could, or even being controlled, like it's like my worst, like I don't like it. I don't like
I just please
yeah.
don't cuss like that. Are we allowed to say things, phrases like that?
Everything you want. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I just got
We are
scared all of a sudden.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
hate
love
to
that
be
you said that. I
controlled.
love that you said that.
Ooh.
I do.
Mm.
Okay, so let's talk about experiences. Let's talk about times where you've tried to control something outside of your control, where you felt like that stemmed from, and then what happened and you trying to control something outside of your control. Travis, I'm gonna go to you first.
Uh, somebody else go first.
We all figure it like go somebody else, go
I
somebody
can
else.
go
Like,
because
which
this is
one?
my example right here. This is my number one example right here with what I be trying to control and can't control. All day, every day. Between him and them kids, boy. Ooh.
That's mine. My
Ooh.
kids is mine.
Ooh. Yes. It's like you just said. Y'all both said your daughters, your son and your daughter went to prom. Ours didn't. She decided she didn't want to go, and she was looking at pictures today, and I'm over here like, you sure you don't feel bad? Like you sure? It's the decision is gone. It's done. It's made. I'm just over here like, are you sure you're not gonna regret this one? She's like,
Right.
woman, how could I know one day? I'm fine. Like I'm fine now. But yes, trying to control my husband and my kids, that's definitely, and I do think it stems from being always out of control from childhood to, I mean, I was a teen mother, so I don't think I was in control ever in life. And I think I am always trying to gain control in some aspect or some way and reminding myself I don't have control and I have to let it go. But that's definitely my biggest struggle. And whew, it has never been successful.
Ever.
So, ever. And to your point, like I feel like even what you were saying about not wanting control, the few times, just even in life in general, where I felt like I've had control, I feel like that's such a scary thing when people give you control, and when they like trust things for you. I don't want that. No, I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's a heavy responsibility, and I think sometimes people are so wanting control because they don't really understand the weight and the responsibility of that. Yeah, I don't take that lightly, so I definitely don't want to typically be in control. But I just like you, I don't like to be controlled, and I think sometimes that's where I start to try to control my environment. Even just my household growing up, cleanliness was huge. So I'm always fussing about the house being clean. Always
All the
fussing.
time.
All the time. It's my biggest irritation. My best friend had to check me. She was on the phone with me coming in one day and she was like, that's how you start off talking to your kids after having been out? And she knows I take, since I'm highly sensitive, number one, as a Cancer, and number two, as a mother, that's my area that I'm super sensitive of. So for her to say that, I'm probably going to be pissed first, but I'm going to respect the crap out of you because I know that means you love my kids because you're calling me on something. So it was just like, she's saying this, I need to check myself. Because she's not going to say it lightly. People don't tell me certain things lightly because they know, I don't know how she's going to respond right now. This could be a trigger. This could be the thing. So I'm like, when people do say things, I take that in because I'm like, I know she said that. Like, I know that meant something. And the kids were like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of those areas where I'm constantly trying to control. And there's so many variables outside of our control, even with just our schedules, that it is never going to be up to par for me. I had to let it go.
That part.
That OCD-ness, I'm with you, Queen. And that kitchen, and that kitchen is something different about the whole rest of the house. The kitchen and the bathrooms, like for real. And a part of that, and I believe we've said that a couple of times, and I've actually seen it in the comments as well, trauma, sometimes even passing on some of the things that you've experienced, whether you want to stay away from those things or you actually went through those things. And I'll give you an example. Like, my mom used to do the same exact thing to us as well. Get this, I mean, it could be one spoon in the sink. Like, I just literally made me some hot chocolate.
Yeah.
That's the only, we cleaned the whole house. There's only a spoon left in the sink. But, she'd come home and she'd zap about just that one spoon, right? And then I saw parts of me in my mom when I would experience the same things as well. And the first thing was I validated my mom's behavior and said, I see why that pissed her off so much. Like, come on, y'all cleaned the whole house. You couldn't get to that one spoon. Like, really? But then I had to really reevaluate and said, one, did you like how that felt? You worked hard making sure everything was together. Now there's this one thing, right? So I started to, in return, again, and to your question, something that I attempted to control was that same exact type of concept. How my house was ran, making sure the house was clean. And I always just believed, because there are situations that I went throughout life where my daughters and I, after I was divorced the first time, we lost everything. I walked away from it all because it wasn't worth the headache. I needed peace. So we were sleeping on floors and couches. So from that point in our elevation, as we went from sleeping on floors and couches of somebody else's 2-bedroom apartment to our own sleeping on the floor 2-bedroom apartment, to then moving to a 3-bedroom apartment, to God, blessing us with a townhome, to now a 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom home, I thought, Lord, please, I want to show you that I am appreciative of this, right? I want to make sure that they understand the importance of taking care of the home. And again, the control thing. We oftentimes attempt to rationalize, right? Why we want to be such in control, but
all the
that
time
was stressing me the hell out. It was absolutely stressful. And I did not want my children, I did not want my king coming to an environment where they felt like, damn, we're going to be criticized about little things, right? So I had to be, again, that self-awareness. Bring that thing in. Is it really that serious, right? You wash the spoon yourself. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So, that sense of control, we attempt to rationalize it, but we have to make a decision at that point whether or not it's worth raising our blood pressure.
So to your point, Nicole said in the comments earlier, she made a great point. She said, let me see, after a while you get so tired of being in control because the weight gets too unbearable. Like, you get like the weight of trying to, like, one, the effects of always criticizing, but aside from that, the weight of always trying to follow up, and I can speak for me, like, always having to tell somebody, like, do this, do that, make sure this is done, make sure that is done, like, always trying to make sure everything's in order and in its proper place is, I be exhausted. Like, what? I'm tired.
Is it that serious? Is it that serious, right?
It is exhausting.
It is. It's very, very much exhausting. And I also wanted to say something about something that Cherie has said. I thought was really good when you talked about, from a therapist standpoint or perspective, when it comes to clients, right? Even as coaching, and I like to call them my butterfly queens, get them out of the thought that, hey, this is just you being a client, right? Them even saying, help me get through this, help me through this situation, even in our, in our job, in our role as their accountability partner, we have to put that back into their hands to say, no, I'm not going to tell you this is the direction that you go. I'm going to need you to figure this thing out for yourself so that whatever the outcome is, it ain't our fault. Let's walk through this thing together, right?
110%. Because we're basically trying to put ourselves out of a job constantly. Constantly put ourselves out of a job. If I teach you the skills that I have, you don't need me. You know what I know. You just got to
Absolutely.
apply it, which is
Yes.
preferential anyways. Because like you said, that's a heavy weight and burden anyways.
Yes.
Number one. And number two, you're outsourcing that power to someone else instead of empowering yourself to make your own
Yes.
choices and decisions. Because ultimately, no one's going to know you as much as you know yourself, you and God. It's going to have to be between y'all. So it's already going to be somewhat faulty, any advice I can give you, because I'm coming through a different lens.
Yes.
I'm going to do my best to connect with that and find out as much as I can to help. But your best bet is to learn what I know and apply it to yourself on your own.
Yes.
We talk about this all the time, right? We said it's particularly when we talk about our kids, like when we had the conversation about trust, and when we had the conversation about another conversation, like think about it in the context of kids. It's the same. It's almost like coaching, right? I had to learn to let go and allow my kids to figure out things for themselves, right? Because they need to develop self-confidence, self-trust. They need to know that mistakes are okay. They need to know that they have the ability to figure things out, right? Like all of that. Like if they look inside themselves, they can figure it out, right? Stop looking outside of yourself for your answers. Which is why it's so important. It was so important for me to learn how to let go of my children in a way, and stop trying to give them all the answers and tell them what to do all the time. I remember one time my son was like, "Ma, how do I microwave this?" And I was like, I know this is so small, but this is how it leads up over time when you have children. I literally was like, "Daniel, read the directions." I'm not gonna tell you, like, and I know that's small, but it really adds up.
It's
over
really
time.
not, though.
Yeah.
It's not.
So
you read so many articles that kids are going to college and their parents are coming to the colleges and resolving everything for them because they've never been taught those skills you're talking about.
Yes.
It's small to you because you're preparing your kids appropriately, which is beautiful, because I think that's intentional parenting. But you'll be surprised how many parents are not intentional at all. And it does start with those types of things, right? And it does build their confidence. You can do this. You can figure it out. What would you do if I wasn't here?
Right. And that's
what you
my
doing
thing.
too?
That's my thing. I need to be free and clear on my deathbed. And prayerfully, it comes with old age, that I have equipped my kids with as much as I possibly can for them to be able to live fulfilling and thriving lives without me being here. So it's that whole talk of enablement versus encouragement, right? I talk about the difference of being someone's crutch versus being someone's electric wheelchair. They have very to little movement in order for them to get to their destination if you're their electric wheelchair. Whereas if you are their crutch, they're going to have to put forth a lot more effort and eventually get stronger, right? In doing that, we have to be very careful. I agree. I'm glad. Yes, read those directions. I had my kids, I want to say, they started at least at around about the 7th grade. They were talking to their teachers when they had a bad grade. I'm not talking. No, you write a letter and this is what you say. This is how you say it. I help them navigate that, So by the time they're in high school, and now my daughter, our oldest, she's in her master's degree program. She said, "Ma, I am so glad that you started teaching us these skills at a very young age, being able to also advocate for themselves," right? It's not even just about, some of the other things. It's, hey, this is my voice. I feel like I need the support. I'm being mistreated. We need that. We need that. So they're much more confident at this age.
I love it.
Yo, I remember it's the last thing I'm gonna say about pulling back from my kids, but I say that to say, like, to the client aspect, it's the same thing you do with clients, right? You don't tell them the answer, you just help them to figure it out themselves. But I think one of the hardest, I'm super protective. I'm hella protective, right? Started from an very early age. Somebody be like, I'm like, huh? Who said what? Where at? Like, I've always been like that. It has transpired. It's transferred to my children. Like, yeah, it's bad. My son was in middle school, and he had a bully situation. He came home. No, I'm sorry. I got a call from the school, and they were like, your son got caught trying to run through, and he was supposed to get on the bus. Got caught running through the woods. He ignored the teacher's directions. I was like, whose son? Not my son. No, he didn't. So anyway, we talked about it. Come to find out he was getting bullied on the bus. And immediately when he said that, I was like,
wait, yeah.
Right? Huh? Say what?
Yeah.
Listen, we was about to have it out.
I beat other people's kids.
Right?
I thank you. I know that's right. I don't care. Absolutely.
But he was like, he said to me, he said, I think he was in 7th grade. He said, Mom, let me handle the situation by myself. And in my mind, I was like, he gonna get beat up. He about to get shot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It was such worst case scenario.
Ooh,
like,
yes.
it was bad. And it took everything inside of me to be like, so I made a deal with him, right? For those of us who are struggling to let go, sometimes you gotta do it's steps.
Baby steps.
Right. So I said to him, I said, fine. So we talked through a couple of ways. I said, so give me some ideas of how you think you're gonna handle it. And he gave me some ideas. One was cussing a guy out. Another one was fighting him. And in my mind, I'm like, he ain't never been to a fight in his life. He don't even know how to use curse words. Like, anyway, so I ain't saying this out loud, right? I'm just listening. And so I'm like, okay, Daniel. I'm like, listen, I'll give you, you handle it on your own. But if another situation arises and if it's not resolved, if it's not resolved and another situation arises, I'm going up to the school and we're going to have a conversation. Hardest thing in my life, because y'all thought worst case scenario. If y'all knew my son, y'all would get it. But yeah, worst case scenario. Anyway, he handled the situation on his own. He did it without violence. Super proud of him. But another example of like,
Ooh.
yeah, that was hard for me. That was so hard for me. Y'all, my son I was like, he's about to get beat up. Oh, he's about to beat up my baby. Anyway,
I feel you on that.
Let me ask you this, Travis, because you said this earlier about control and influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between control and influence? And if so, what is the difference?
I think it goes to like what Coach Vaughn been saying about outcome. Like control almost suggests that you're going to have almost a guaranteed or a strong impact on the outcome, whereas influence is more of a momentary, present impact. So I can influence and push and pull myself and other people, situations, of course. Doesn't mean I still have no idea how it'll turn out. So it's still not outcome dependent, but influence seems to, like I said, be more temporary, more right now, more tangible. And it seems more realistic about how we can impact situations. I think that's the difference. It's not even maybe not even aspiring toward controlling an outcome by saying influence is something lighter. Something a little bit lower down on the spectrum.
Okay. I like that. Sherry?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Even to going back to your story, Tita, you like influence, okay? Like, if you wanted to control it, you could have said, I'm going to take this in my hands. I'm going to go up to the school. I'm going to handle this myself. As opposed to like, run these by me again. Like, so what are you planning to do? Now I'm influencing. I don't know about that choice. You sure you want to do that? Have you thought this through? You've been in a fight before? Like, let me help you process. Isn't that we also what we do as coaching and therapists, right? Like, have you ever done that before? How did that play out for you the last time you did that? Are you sure you want to do that again? I'm not telling you not to do it, but let's think through the pros and the cons, and then you can make an informed decision. How you feel about that now? So now it kind of helps to influence them and kind of let them think through what they're saying, but not necessarily telling them exactly what to do. I definitely think that is important. And I think once we even realize we have that power, we aren't going to necessarily try to control. I think we try to control things because we don't realize we do have influence. We do have an ability to impact people as our children, our spouses, everyone, right? Like if they're in that kind of close connection or relationship with you, you probably have some influence over them.
Mm.
So instead of me trying to control you, if I look at it from an influential perspective, maybe you'll listen a little bit more because I don't like to be controlled. Once somebody starts trying to control me, I'm shutting down. I'm going to do the opposite. It might not even be healthy for me. I'm going to go right into that direction because you try to control it. As opposed to if you tell me this is something important to you, like you said, I'm a protector. I'm a lover. Like if you're telling me this is important to you and I care enough about you, I'm going to be influenced by that already.
Mm-hmm.
And you telling me how important to you is enough of an influence already to kind of impact my decisions. But like you said, if you're trying to control the outcome, especially when it comes to me, that's going to be a frustrating process. Like you just got to let that one go. Just
Facts.
that's going to be a challenge. And that's same that when you said your children, I feel like that for me and him, like, ooh, learning to let go. I remember just ironing clothes, like anything, this like step by step. I had step by step instructions for how I wanted it done.
I know.
Like step by step. Like you think back on stuff, you be like, what were you thinking?
In the world?
Yes. And like, who did you think you were? The queen of street, but like, yes. Girl, oh my goodness. I know they look at some stuff like, what? But like, no, this is how I want it. And I don't understand. This makes sense. Why would you not do it? Right. I've thought through this. I'm a logical person. I've rationalized why this makes sense for me and for you.
Right. Why don't he
I don't understand why you're not buying into this. Like, what is the problem? Why can't you understand it? And what you said, Tisha, about they have to figure it out in their time, I'm like, I have to let that go. I have to let it go. But I agree. I think that's the biggest struggle we have, and it becomes humorous even after the point, like what he said, like some of those moments, some of those frustrations, those moments that we couldn't let go of, like we look back on them and now we can laugh at it. Now that's kind of part of our colorful stories. That's even part of how people connect to us. Because if we had it all together, no one wants to. I mean, I don't know anyone, so why would I listen to your story? Because I don't have it all together, so that's not even gonna relate to me. But all of those colorful moments are part of what we realize, like, okay, like this is a real person. I can connect to that. And I think that's also why when people present as knowing it all, we're like, that doesn't vibe with our spirit, that doesn't mesh with our energy because it's false. Like we recognize that that's not real. Like you can't know everything, you can't be in control of everything. So when you present that, that doesn't even read as authentic.
Amen. Yeah.
That's good.
That part.
Good.
Miss McDaniel said, I think influence is allowing your life to set the example. Control is making people do things a certain
that's a word right there.
I like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Coach Ron, do you have a contrast?
Well, no, I, what they said is literally what I say when I think about, control versus, influences versus control. I think of synonyms, right? I think of recommendation versus direction. You see what I'm saying? Like that's what I put those on the spectrum where, I am influencing, maybe I am recommending. A recommendation doesn't say do this, do it this way. It's, hey, here's some options, explore, right? From my perspective, these may be helpful to you if you wanted to include one of these things. No big deal here, whereas direction is, like you said, I'm gonna need you to iron this, and once you fold those socks, I need the right to go over the left, and do not put them inside out because that's going to stretch the top. I'm gonna need you to tie them in a knot together and they go on this side of the drawer, right? Direction is very much controlling the outcome, whereas recommendation, I'm putting it out there to you. Whatever you decide to do, hey, I did my part. That is to me an influence, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
you nailed it, because that's the problem right there. I want the outcome. So what you said, a recommendation, this ain't no recommendation. What you mean? Why is it not done? No,
actually, it's a commandment. It's a commandment, actually.
It's a direction.
It's law. when she said recommendation, that hit in my soul because I was like, yep, because I don't like that word right there. I recommend what?
No, let's be clear. I wanted it this way.
I said I recommended it, but what I meant is these are the directions. I wanted to read between the lines like, no, I just do these.
And then you looking like, so you just gonna leave it like that?
Right.
Right. Like, hit.
Right.
Ooh.
You ain't want to take my recommendation at all. You just going
right. Well, you just wait a minute, King. Guess what? I'm married to a Cancer, so
you get it. Oh, that's funny.
Wait a minute. So why didn't you choose to do it this way? Because clearly, you just said it's up to you. So you shouldn't have said it's up to me.
Shouldn't have said that one. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's so funny.
And he's a psychologist.
You get it.
Look, I feel, what we are doing is giving recommendations in the to the people in the comments for how to fold their socks. They loving it. So when I think about the difference between how I feel, I just had this conversation with somebody about how men. I hate to make this generalization, but no. So
it's okay.
When I had a conversation with a guy about how men are like to be problem solvers, right? And they like to lead, and I think they like to. Well, now I'm gonna leave it at lead. I'm not gonna say all men like to control. I'm gonna leave it at lead. And the difference between control and influencing. For myself, when I think about the two, when I think about control in the way it feels like you're trying to have power over me. You're trying to have power over something. When I think about influence, I think about having an effect on, right? Like, so when I was having a conversation with a guy, I was telling him, like, you don't lead by controlling, right? By trying to take control over something and have power over something. You lead in love, you lead by example. Whatever you're trying to teach, you be first, right? For myself, I know the greatest way that somebody can influence me, like, is by planting seeds and leading by example. Like, whatever you're trying to teach me, whatever you're trying to show me, just do it. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna pay attention, right? Yes. But as soon as you start telling me, oh, Tisa, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. Oh, that's wrong. This is this and that, and blah blah blah. And this is like, I'm out. I'm shutting down. You controlling. You boxing me in. I don't like it. No. But if you quietly in love, just plant seeds and lead, I'm hit. I'm gonna follow you. I'm with it. I'm gonna pick it up. And I think about that with our kids, right? Think about it. When I was a kid, when our parents were like, you do what I say, not what I do.
Not as I do.
That couldn't be the complete
dumbest.
The
dumbest.
That ain't never worked.
How did that work for that generation?
Right, didn't.
Exactly.
That's the question.
Yeah. Georgie says one is telling me what to do, the other is demonstrating or showing what's possible. Exactly.
Exactly. So that's a great way of saying it too, because you see the outcome if you see the work and the effort.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's like what stands out in my mind, or what I thought about, because people often will ask me, like, what's the difference between, like, you know, I'm trying to show you. No, you're trying to control me. Stop it.
But here's the interesting thing, though. Those that, and you may call them manipulators, if you know, you may want to call them that. There's maybe a good sense of that. It's such a negative connotation that's affiliated with the term manipulator, right? A lot of things, people, places, manipulate situations so that they can go and you can get your controlled outcome, right? So I'll give you all an example, a situation, and I still laugh about it till this day. My husband, I want to believe it's been around about 5 years now. Yeah, like 5 years now. He got his doctorate degree in psychology. So I planned him this big surprise party, right? And I wanted him to wear something very specific for the event. So I love planning events. I had my friends reach out to him and said, you know what? Oh my gosh. I also have like this women's organization called Yana Fly. You're not alone, first loving yourself. So I had them reach out to him and say, hey, we want to plan this party for Vaughn. She's been so awesome to us. We love what she's have going on. Can you help us trick her? So the whole time he's working with my friends thinking he's planning a surprise party for me, but I'm really planning one for him, right? So
Fantastic.
I told him, again, I have everything all lined out, working out in the background. There's this specific blazer that I want him to wear, which is not normally his style, right? But I knew it matched with the theme. It matched with his regalia, all of that stuff. So I was like, how am I going to have to be able, okay, babe, you know what? Your grandmother said she wanted some pictures. This matches your regalia. Everything's going to be nice. How about we take some photos and you wear this blazer? All right, cool. All right, I'm with it. All right, let's go try it on. So he put it on. He's like, I don't know. So I'm like, no, it absolutely makes sense. Again, I know what outcome I want. However, planting those seeds that you were just talking about, right? It makes sense. It matches up, and then we can put that together and send it to your grandmother. All right, cool. This is how I had him actually wear it the night of my surprise party, right? I bought some shoes. I've been had these shoes. I bought them out. I said, babe, look what I found. These actually match your jacket. He's like, oh my goodness, this is so nice. I was like, man, now I got to find it somewhere to wear it to. He said, I have an idea.
Oh, that was slick.
He was like, it can match my jacket. I was like, you know what?
Oh, oh my goodness.
So he drops me off at the party, at the curb, and they said, no, we'll go ahead and walk her in and put her in another room so you can go park the car. We'll let you get into the building, so when we bring her in the room, we'll scream surprise. Of course, to his surprise, he thinks he's walking into the room where I am to take me, you know, surprise. He was so confused. But again, to our point, outcome, I was able to control the situation, but I used influence, right? To get your outcome. And I believe that's what the queen was talking about in the comments, is making sure that you know, just a little at a time, you know, be that example, put that in there, and you can still get what you want, but you just got to be smart about it.
So let me ask you this, because one of the questions I had was how control and manipulation are related, and do we control to manipulate, or do we manipulate to control? But now I want to ask this: what's the difference? Is there a difference between manipulation and influence?
I personally believe when we're talking about these words, if we looked up synonyms, right? Because I love definitions. I love official definitions because it helps us to speak the same language, right? So we can be on the same page, because we can give a word, the same word, 85 different definitions, and we're like, no, that's not what that means, right? But when you're talking about the control piece or the influence versus manipulation, I believe one is an action and the other one is a outcome. Now, what you want that outcome to look like, again, I can influence the situation, which can also be considered to manipulate someone, or to manipulate or have a certain outcome develop. So I believe they're all closely related.
They are.
Do we want manipulation to be good or bad, right? Was it the manipulation that I did? Because that's what I did. I manipulated the situation. It wasn't for harm. It wasn't for ill will, which is what we tend to affiliate manipulation with.
We do.
Agree.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, I think for me, I think intent is a difference too. Like you can influence things passively, like even what Tori was saying a little bit. Like if you just look at Jesus, he wasn't directly telling everyone, but he's living an example, right? Like I could just live an example and that could influence you. As opposed to manipulation, there's a little bit more intention behind manipulation, I think, where I'm intending to influence you. But I also think what you said, that doesn't mean it's a negative thing. Going back to coaching and therapy, we're manipulators, right? People are terrified of therapy because of that reason. But I'm not manipulating you for harm. Because manipulation is change. And that's why I love when we talk about this from the scientific experiment concept, right? Because you have observation. So you need to observe. But there's a part in it where you are manipulating the variables. I'm changing different things. How can I understand which outcome is even desired if I keep doing the same thing over and over and over again? So manipulation is technically just changing, right? Like, so you said you're agent of change. I have to change certain things to get different outcomes. And I'm going to try to do different things to get different outcomes that I want. I can't always guarantee those outcomes. That's part of what we're looking at. We study the data, we study the results, and we're like, okay, which things do we want to repeat? Which things do we not want to repeat? That's all a part of the process. But I don't think it's wrong necessarily to manipulate unless I'm intending to harm you.
Yes.
But that's also where you have to be aware, right? Because the example you just gave, Coach Ron, someone could hear that and misconstrue it. And some men may not be able to handle that story to say, oh, you had that influence and you did that and you got me to do that. That could trigger it. Some men may be not triggered and more, I don't want to say more stable because it really just depends on your experiences, but some people wouldn't be bothered by that at all. And some would be. The same way, even just when I do therapy, sometimes clients are like, you read me too well. It makes them very uncomfortable.
Yes.
It makes them so uncomfortable. I'm not trying to hurt you, but they don't know that, right?
Yes.
And so that triggers them where they're like, oh, that makes me feel a type of way because now I'm vulnerable. But you don't know that I'm a safe space. And that's my job to partly kind of reassure you and to kind of let you know, which is why I like what both of you guys said. Your goal wasn't harmful, right? So like that's a part of it. Like I'm letting you know that this is something I'm doing for your good. And I don't have an issue letting you know that because I also know you don't know. Like how could you know if you have different experiences that tell you otherwise, right? Like you've had a lifetime of experiences that might tell you manipulation is always bad. So you need a new experience for you to have a new belief. So that requires me to have some patience in sort of that positive affirmation that you're saying, that reaffirmation, like, yeah, I'm doing this, but I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm just trying to show you something new or help you to have a new experience. Or like you said, there's an outcome that I want, but that don't always mean it's bad either. My outcome and desires aren't always trying to hurt you or harm you either.
So Sherry, I have a question for you because you just brought up something, a real life experience for me. I've heard in context of a relationship, I've heard a man say that, you know, what I'm trying to get you to do is good for you, right? Where I don't know if the question, where's that line drawn, but I've literally heard people say, or a man say to me, like manipulation is okay if what I'm trying to get you to do is good for you. But who are you to say that's good for me, or are you really just trying to get me to fit in a mold that actually keeps you comfortable and makes you comfortable?
That because it takes understanding, right? Like what you just said. If you're trying to do what's good for me, that considers me. I'm a part of that factor. So you have to take what I think into consideration. Absolutely. That's what you're saying, even for your children. You have a desired outcome. You have a thought that you think is best for them, but you respect them enough to know you have to decide that. You have to play a part in that. You have a say in this because it's your life ultimately. So a lot of times I do think people will try to influence it because they say, I think this is best for you. But that's your perspective. You haven't taken in my perspective. You haven't taken into consideration what I think is best for me, what Coach Vaughn said from the beginning, which is always for me the biggest factor in considering the now is what are my goals. You don't know my goals. So how do you know what's best for me, right? Because going back to when we talk about goals, my goal is not always to be safe. So if someone else's goal is always to protect me, they're going to be frustrated because sometimes I need to step outside my comfort zone. Sometimes I need to take some risks. Sometimes I need to do some things or develop skills in areas that might not have been good early on. So how do I grow and develop those areas, build stamina, develop if I'm always staying safe and protected? I can't.
Yeah.
So I have to step out my comfort zone. And that's a part of the respect you said before, because I need to respect that you may not know it all now, but you can figure it out. You can learn and you can grow.
I love it.
I just learned something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I call that the good change versus bad change kind of concept. The way that I was able to evaluate that, Queen, is I'm sure we've all been there when someone felt like they knew what was best for us and that was in our best interest. But what I like to sit back and evaluate, no matter whoever it's coming from, right? I attempt to remove the messenger and listen to the message. If what they are recommending to me makes me a better individual without them, then I may be more receptive of that information, right? So for an example, if someone says, you know, Vaughn, hey, you really need to stop smoking, right? I don't smoke, but let's say they say stop smoking. Yeah, he may hate the smoke. She may hate the smoke, but in return, does it benefit me to make that change? And that's how I evaluate whether or not what they are giving me is worth me looking a little bit more into, regardless if it benefits them in the end, does it also benefit me?
I love that. Like that. That's a way to check your ego, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. I tell my kids that too. Like so that. They would argue, because you know how kids are. You're not my mom. Don't tell me. Is what they said valid, right? Like if what they said is the right thing, listen. Why are you arguing and fighting with them because they're not your parent when they told you the right thing to do? Versus if what they said is the wrong thing, don't listen. So you know they had to turn around and check me on that one day because they told me to do something, and I'm like, I'm the parent. Well, is what we said valid? Like, is what we said the right thing or not? And at the end of the day, I think that's a great ego check, because even going to what we said before about titles and degrees and all of that, everyone ain't for you. Everyone's not trying to help you heal. Everyone is not necessarily on par with certain things or in alignment with where you're at. So you do not want to take everything at face value. You do need discernment in that. So like you said, is this in alignment with who I am, how I want to move, in alignment with something that I think is healthy for me or not? Then I can decide whether or not to listen to it. But I do think that there needs to be some discernment in that. But I agree, people, we let our egos get in the way. How could you tell me, or you don't know, or maybe you don't know me that well? It still don't matter if I don't know you that well, if what I said is accurate.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that ego check. Ooh. Nicole said that's the hard part. It depends on the person you're receiving it from, because you tend to judge that person who's giving you the advice, and it depends on your mindset at the time. Yes. Travis, Fred said you're not talking enough, so we need more input from you, and I need to ask you more direct questions.
Tell Fred to mind his goddamn business.
Fred loves you. He's basically telling us to shut up so you can talk.
He trying to let this man be heard, and he attacked him.
All right, let me ask you this, Travis.
Yeah, right.
All right, okay. How do you think we, Travis, how do we get to a place where we accept what we can't control, right? How do we work towards being like less controlling individuals?
Wonderful question. I think step one, if I was going to give somebody advice on that, it's going to be don't try to do it overall, right? Don't try to fix control in your, I don't want to be a controlling person. Don't grab 30 events from past, present, and future and try to manage 30 things.
Because we do that. We do it all at once.
Exactly. So that's Fred's crazy. But but yeah, that's what I would say. I would say think about it one thing at a time, right? Like for instance, you can't eat healthy, right? You can only make a healthy choice at your next meal. It's impossible to eat healthy overall. You can only eat one fucking thing at a time. So next meal you have an opportunity to eat healthy. That's true.
Yes.
So when that meal comes, do your best, eat healthy. And guess what? If I put too many fries on that plate, I'm going to have to eat again within 6 to 8 hours, which I'll have another opportunity for eating healthy.
Yes.
So when it comes to be controlling, I would say something very similar. Try to be less controlling in your next event, which would lead me to number 2 is analyzing why are you doing that, right?
Ooh.
And it's almost 100% of the time based on fear. Almost 100% of the time, there's something you feel you have to have, or there's something you feel you can't live without, or it has to go this way, or it'll hurt too bad, or this has to happen. For whatever reason, something is scary to you in the future that you're trying to use the present moment to prevent from coming into your life. It's a very understandable thing. It's a very self-preservation. It's very logical. So that would be my third point, is be gentle to your scared ass brain. Be gentle with it, gentle, because it's trying to help. So be gentle and don't say, I don't want to be controlling. Why am I keep doing this? Why am I? Settle down, settle down. Take a breath and see, hey, look, this thing is trying to help me. Do I want to take its advice? And then you have a choice, and then you have agency. When you take one meal at a time, when you be gentle with yourself, your odds go through the roof of changing behavior.
Mic drop. Fire. Heart emojis.
Right, where the heart's at? Can we hearts too?
Yo. Wow, you just said a lot of pot. That was, listen, yeah. Bye, y'all. Good night.
All right.
Like, if people just watch the video, you don't even need to go to therapy. Like, just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Absolutely.
Like, the information is there.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that two of the things that I love the most that you said is the next meal. You're always going to get another opportunity to try. Life will never stop giving you opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? So just the next time, just try the next time, right? It's always going to be a next time. And a little bit more, right? Like, and also another thing I love that you said is, what is causing you in the moment to want to control the situation? Like, because I think when you we talk about this all the time, right? When you begin to understand why you do what you do, why you move the way you move, that's when real change happens. Real long lasting change can happen, right? Like, you learn so much about yourself. And it allows you to show up. The better you understand yourself, that's when you can learn to show up differently, right?
Absolutely.
Well, apparently you weren't. Yeah, Travis, that was fire.
Absolutely.
Fred says Travis should be a life coach. He might rough us up a little bit in the end, but we will.
You need that.
We will be like, thank you, Daddy.
That's what you need. That's what you need. That's what you need.
Travis does actually mentor people. He actually does mentor.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
I love
so funny. Oh my gosh.
So Coach Vaughn and Sherry, do you have anything to add to that? Like, how do we work towards being accepting what we can't control and work to be less controlling?
I actually like the reason why y'all see butterflies everywhere is because I was
like, it's so pretty.
I like it.
Thank you. I have them everywhere, and that is actually the template and the blueprint that I actually use to help coach my queens through their process, through their journey, right? It's that whole butterfly life cycle. It's a process. And in short, you know, a lot of people know the two kind of main stages of a butterfly life cycle. They know, hey, it's the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? Most people know those two parts. However, there's 4 to 5 stages depending on, you know, what type of butterfly is. And I'm going to condense this very, very quickly. There's the egg stage. There is the pupa stage. There's the pupa stage. There's the larva stage. And there's the adult butterfly stage, right? So that's the egg, the caterpillar, the chrysalis, and the adult butterfly. The reason why that is extremely important is you got to understand in each one of those stages, important things happen. There is a process. And the reason why this makes it's such an important thing to understand when it comes to control, if we attempt to control these stages, you could very well impact, kill, destroy the purpose of what is intended to happen at the end. I talk about, you know, be patient. It's called the positive perspective statement. This is how what I use to let go of what I saw as failure, a failed marriage, bad credit, foreclosure, losing my home, everything, like literally starting life over. There were a lot of things I could not control. So I created an affirmation that helped me with relinquishing control. It's be patient, but persistent. Remembering it's a process, celebrate the progress. We do any one of the 4 P's at any given time, right? Instead of incorporating all 4, we may be like, Lord, I'm just going to wait on you. I'm going to just be patient. Now he said patient, but persistent.
Amen.
Like we got to put work into it. But we also have to remember it's a process. Have you ever taken a cake out of the oven way too soon? Have you ever attempted to do something and the process did not take place? I understand, if I can understand this is a process, that my end result, I cannot control this, Vaughn. I need to understand things need to happen. The ingredients need to gel well. God needs to align certain things in my life. Girl, you think you're ready to become a billionaire? No, sis. I need to make sure that you can sustain this lifestyle, this mindset. I need to walk you there. But what is going to pull those 3 things together and to help us to relinquish control even more is to celebrate the progress. At the end, we want to wait until the end goal. I don't have it yet, so I'm mad. I'm blown. No, I am eating 1 less French fry than I did yesterday. So I am celebrating the progress. This makes me excited about what my end goal is going to be. So that is what I absolutely did during my times of sleeping on those floors and couches, with rebuilding my credit, with ended up, you know, moving to getting my 6-figure dream job, with end up purchasing my home. I had to be patient, but persistent, remembering it's a process, celebrating the progress. That's what I did.
Fantastic.
Y'all just gonna end this live on fire. That was great.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Love it.
So one of the things that that I do that I have a habit of doing, that you mentioned, right? That celebrate your progress. When I'm going through, and still to this day, right? Like this I've learned to add this in, because I am super critical of myself. And I'm continually developing the muscle of self-compassion and grace, right? So one of the things that I do when I'm moving through tough moments is, if I'm having a really hard time moving through a tough moment, is I love to go and just journal all the things that I've overcome, all the things that I've moved through, right? No matter how small they are. It's also, right, when you think about the psychology of it, it's also why we make task lists, right? Why task lists are can be so beneficial, right? It's something about, you can have 1,000 things to do, right? But in visualizing it and being able to cross off one thing, right, is like, yes, it's I'm moving along.
Reward
I'm moving along,
system.
right?
Depending on how you focus, because that is a source of stress and anxiety a lot of times for people. Like a lot of like our type personalities are list makers.
Mm.
And that can create a lot of anxiety because I didn't accomplish all. It goes back to what you were saying, focusing on the progress. Because you have that perspective, it's a blessing for you. It can also be a curse if you don't have that perspective. If you're focusing on all the things on the list you didn't get done,
Right.
as opposed to, like you said, these are the things I've been able to accomplish.
Right.
These are the things. That's why I love perception. What you guys are saying, everything on this conversation tonight has been confirmation for just even myself, and just a lot of the stuff. I don't know how many times there's like themes throughout the week of like sessions, and like this is something that we keep talking about, or this is something that keeps popping up. That concept of like celebration, I even made a shirt based on it, because if you think of our community, we've suffered so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been conditioned to focus on that. We've been conditioned to focus on these negative things. Like you could have 10,000 things go right, and we focus on the thing that didn't go right.
Yeah.
So I think we have not understood how to celebrate and how to celebrate our progress. And we look at, oh, well, this is so small, I won't share it. But you shared that small problem, that small molehill of an issue. You shared that thousands of times. So what's on your mind now? Because that's what you keep focusing on. But we minimize even little steps of progress, little moments of what we consider victories. But I mean, considering the world we live in, every accomplishment is huge. It's not small. And it takes us closer and closer. Even having done addiction, like working in the addiction field, I think it's always, whether it's addiction or whether it's couples, because I think everything stems out of addiction. Even our chase for being controlling and being perfect, that's an addiction.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we struggle in relationships because we want to control the outcome, and we want to see that outcome now. So I told this man to stop taking his shoes off, and here we are 6 months, 6 years later, he's still doing it. But you don't really know all the other things underlying that behavior. All of the other variables impacting it. So we want that outcome today. We want it right now, as opposed to having the patience to understand, like you said, progress. Maybe he isn't taking it off every single time, but for the last month, he did it without you ever saying that. But you didn't notice because you focused on that third time that he did it.
Yes. Yes.
So you saw he did it, but you didn't see, how many times he didn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that goes back into that sense of control too. I know I did that in our relationship, and again with the kids. Like I'm seeing that's what they say. You came in and pointed out all the things that you felt weren't done in this room. But we spent hours cleaning this room. We spent hours putting our effort into it. And all you saw was what we didn't do. How discouraging.
Absolutely. Very, very.
And why would that person want to keep trying?
That's one of the things I actually do in my sessions. It is a requirement. When we first start our sessions, Queen, what can I help you celebrate? And that is by far one of the most uncomfortable questions for all. I promise you, I have, since I've been coaching and official with that title and certification over the past 2 years, I've done well over 60 women. Not one found it comfortable to celebrate or could find it easy to find something to celebrate. And I make them find at least 3 things. And it would take at least round about 5-6 sessions, if at all, for them to truly get comfortable with finding something to celebrate about themselves. Now you're wondering why your self-esteem is in the garbage. You don't even realize how freaking awesome you are, right?
I agree. And I can mimic that with parents, because that's one of the assessments we do. And it's like, tell me your strengths. Tell me your weaknesses. Right? Tell me what you like, what you don't like. You can't tell me nothing your kid is good at. Nothing.
But they can tell you everything they're not.
Everything they didn't do right, everything they're not good at. And it's heartbreaking because, like you said, this is what we're being developed in our community. So it's like teachers, same thing. You haven't heard from your parents, from your teachers, from your community, nothing that you're good at. So you haven't learned to develop that sense of confidence, but you hear all the time what you're not good at. So it feels more comfortable to say your weaknesses. It feels more comfortable to beat yourself up as opposed to build yourself up. And then we're taught to be humble. How much humility does a people need?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, we got to be able to celebrate something. Like, we get penalized from that in society. Look at sports. The moment someone celebrates the play, they're not being sportsmanlike. So, really? But we're taught our successes are different. So we feel shame to admit or to be proud of our success. We're even worried, how is the world going to receive it, right? If we're successful, because they're going to steal it, are they going to downplay it, are they going to do whatever? So now we have fear associated to us succeeding and celebrating ourselves, as opposed to, this is what we should be doing. This is how we should feel. It doesn't feel comfortable. That's heartbreaking.
Very.
And Tisa, you're gonna have to. We'll probably take this down a rabbit hole, but please invite us back to have that detailed discussion as well, as where a lot of that actually stems from, that trauma, even from slavery days, right? They talk about, hey, don't talk about how great of a man and how strong he is because he'll be sold off. But we're not talking about that right now.
And I got a whole book, because that's a whole other conversation. But so, I got it.
We're in different times now. We can't break that trauma of what we did that protected us back then. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay.
And speaking on that, have y'all seen Atlanta? Do y'all watch Atlanta?
No.
Yo, this new season?
Girl.
Yes.
Yeah. That trauma gets passed down if we don't. And it's so sometimes well intended. Sometimes so well intended. And that's why understanding is powerful, because what we consider trauma, and I think that's important to distinguish. Like what you said, I love words. I'm big on words. But we use words colloquially very different than like even clinically, right? So we use that as like a label. We throw out like this person had trauma, or like this person's a narcissist, or this person's abusive. And it becomes these labels that these are terrible people, as opposed to these are symptoms of their trauma too. This is a symptom of their own trauma. Like that's all we've known as a people. So we're just getting to a point in society where it's even calm enough for us to reflect on our behaviors. That's a privilege to be able to reflect. You got to be a little bit out of the struggle enough to be able to reflect. And so we also judge people like, you're not self-reflecting. They ain't on solid ground yet. They still drowning in the pool.
That part. They not on solid ground yet. That part.
Not yet. But they can be. And your words are a part of that influence. So what do you want to influence them towards? Giving up or to continue that process?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That condition.
Oh, that's gonna be a dope conversation, y'all. That's gonna be such a good conversation. I don't know if anybody's ever read this book, right? But I just bought it. It's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Can y'all see?
We got that, yeah.
You got this?
Yeah.
It's called America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. Yo, caught this. I just started this. If y'all have never read this book, please get this book. Going into the conversation that we're just talking about, right? And we're gonna have another whole. That's gonna be a dope. Thank you for bringing that up. That's gonna be a really good conversation.
It is a good one.
Oh, that's gonna be so good. All right. Okay. So let me close out by asking you guys this. How do we? And I don't know if we have an answer or if you have an answer, but Travis, I'm gonna ask you this first. How do we shift the way we are viewing something so that we can change the way we're responding to it, our behavior and how we're interacting with it? How do we begin to shift our perspective?
That's the same question you asked me last time.
Kind of. She said let go control. Now she can shift perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one meal at a time, like, and one part that I didn't touch on last time, I guess, is the difficulty. If it was as simple as focusing on one thing at a time and just be honest with yourself, be honest with why you're scared. Like that's fucking difficult, right? The reason why people don't do it is because of how difficult it is. Nobody would stay entrenched in fear unless they felt that was their best option. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's choosing a lesser option on purpose. That's insanity. So anytime somebody is remaining stuck in anything, in any behavior that maladaptive, I think is what they be calling it, It's because that feels the best and the safest option for the moment. So if it has to come through some kind of self-discovery of a pattern that I don't like anymore. It won't come from a spouse or a partner, or you have to agree and sign off on the fact that there's a behavior you would like to change. Even if you don't know how at all, if you can own the fact and be intentional in just declaring, this is a behavior I want to change. Step one, because now you have a reference point that only you can go back to and sign off on. So that when you don't do it for the next 3 or 4 times, you can say, but remember I planted that flag, so there's still work to do. I would say that the best way to do that is to imagine doing the opposite in the moment. Even if you don't execute it in a relationship or at your job or in your own personal life, imagine you did the thing you want to do here, and maybe you're not ready to actually execute. Imagine you did it. What wakes up inside you? What gets scared? What makes you say, oh, no. What are the things? Is it because of I don't want to be alone? Is it because I don't want to be judged or my reputation to suffer? Is it that I don't want to lose this group or this setting? And then how come that's so scary? What is it deep down inside that makes clinging to it feel better?
Ooh.
And if it's something that you can identify like loneliness, or even if it's just fun, I don't want to be left out or anything like that. What is the question I would ask inside yourself? Or what? What does it look like if you were to suffer that fear that you keep running away from? What does it feel like and what does it look like? Be really honest and then say, like, how come I have this? You know, like, is it that, oh, well, when in middle school and high school and early years, I remember how many nights I spent in a room by myself, or I remember how it felt for my family to all sit around and point fingers and make fun of me at the same time, or how it felt at school to be ostracized, or what is it reminding you of that you're using as such strong evidence to continue the behavior? Because there must be something that you've experienced or that you're scared to experience that is driving the continuation of behavior. There has to be. So that's the discovery process that I would say to do, maybe even before you even say, I'm about to change this, I'm about to change that. How come I haven't? What's been the thing holding me in? The lack of discipline, the lack of this. What's happening in lazy? Why am I'm calling it lazy. I'm calling it unmotivated. But is it more something I'm scared of? And what is that, right? So there's no way that I could answer for all the millions of possibilities there could be for each and every person.
Yeah.
But I promise you that if it's something that's bothering you, you want to change, there's an opposite force that's just as strong keeping you in it.
Come on,
so just take a look at how come I keep doing stuff I don't want to do. Just explore that and be honest, even if you can't tell nobody else. Like, I'm embarrassed to tell them because of this. I don't want anybody else to know this thing about me because I don't want to be judged. Just be honest. What is it? Find out. And maybe, like I said, you don't have what it takes to move and do anything different right now, but identification is powerful.
Oh, yeah, it is.
That part. Anybody else want to add to that? Travis just killed that answer again.
What's the question?
How you change behavior?
I definitely would not.
Yeah. How would you tell somebody, or how do we begin to shift our focus, shift our perspective? That was the question.
Yeah.
To change behavior.
Yeah, I agree. I think it goes even to what Coach Vaughn was saying about looking at the progress. I think we forget that we learn through repetition. Mm-hmm. And so it takes thousands of times before you get it, right? And that's the reason you have to be patient in that process, because you're not going to ever really understand anything instantaneously. Like, there's nothing in like we got the first time we felt it. Like, I seen it, I got it. It's not often. Yep. It's not the commonality. So we have to understand that there's a repetition. Like, so if there is something I'm trying to change, it's going to take time and it's going to take repetition. but it's going to take, like you were saying, to a positive reinforcement, because that's going to move me towards progress as opposed to defeating me. So if I am using negative languages to kind of talk to myself, that's going to break me down. That's not going to build me up and motivate me towards change, as opposed to challenging myself. Like, is this something I can do? Just because you haven't done it before don't mean you can't do it. So once you start challenging certain thoughts and processes and recognizing this may be part of that conditioned perspective, this may be a thought you've learned somewhere in life, right? Somewhere someone told you couldn't do it, because people don't start out with that idea that they can't.
Right.
That's why we say kids are a little reckless, right? Kids think they can do anything. So we've been taught we can't do certain things. So we have to start looking at those challenges. Where did this thought process come from? Where did this idea come from? Right? Is this even an internal desire, or is it something someone else is pushing me to do? Because that, like you said, is a big part of it. I might not be very motivated if it's you're trying to force me into something versus this is something I genuinely want to do. As a therapist, I think that was also a big part that I had to learn, right? Because that's the very difference between a therapeutic relationship versus family and friends. They didn't ask for my advice. Your clients are coming to you, asking you for help, wanting your help. So guess what they do? They listen. They take notes. They're rarely involved in that process. You voluntarily are trying to introduce yourself into other people's problems and push in because you think that this is something that's helpful for them. They didn't ask for your point of view or your perspective. So a lot of times we want to evoke change. That's the control dynamic, right? Like, I think this could benefit you, but do they think it can benefit them? Because it don't matter if they don't. If they don't feel it's a benefit, I'm just sitting here pushing you towards what? Fighting you, stressing myself out, stressing you out, as opposed to, if I recognize this is a progress and a process, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to honor that. I'm going to let you dictate how this is supposed to go, right? And the same for me. That's what I want people to recognize. Like, I have good self-awareness. So don't try to force me, let it flow. Like you said that in the beginning. You said, like, I'm smart enough to pick up on something. So you don't got to force it down my throat. Just guide me gently and I'll figure it out. But I got to get it in my own time. And that's where we kind of make that mistake. We want to force the time.
Yeah.
It's not up to us what the timing that they're going to get, if ever, right? How many teachers stand in front of the class and teach? Not every kid understands what they said. Some people get it right away. Some people it takes several times. Some people it may take tutoring and extra lessons. And some people, they just didn't get it. And we hate that in society because we're always assuming this person doesn't want to get it. What if they're not able to or not able to yet?
That part.
And so we have to allow that. And for ourselves too, right? We're like, oh, I didn't get it. Not yet.
Yep.
Day one, moment one, you want to get it all right now, as opposed to giving yourself some time. Like, it just takes time to figure things out sometimes. And you're not going to stumble upon the correct answer always the first time or always the fifth time. It may take more time. That doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means it hasn't happened yet. But if you keep trying, you're more likely to get there, right? Like, okay, so I figured out these two things weren't the solution. So then I can figure out, okay, this wasn't the solution. That means I'm getting closer towards the solution. And that's why I love the progress concept. Like, okay, even elimination is progress. I found out these were not the answers. Right. In relationships, I try to tell women all the time, they're so frustrated. I'm like, you did a good job. You eliminated some things that could have been potentially toxic if you tied yourself into it.
Come on.
But you feel like this means something bad for you or means something less of you. Instead, that means you're healthy. You're seeing what you don't want and you're not allowing it into your life. That's a healthy choice and decision. Not everyone's going to understand that or be in alignment with it, but you're not supposed to be in alignment with everybody. Everybody's not supposed to understand you.
Come on.
So that's a part of letting go, right? And being honest with where am I right now. Right now, I'm not going to connect to everybody. I mean, maybe never, probably, right? So I have to be honest about that. So it takes a lot of honesty in that process to be able to say, like, you wouldn't expect a 6-year-old to be able to do what a 10-year-old or a 20-year-old could do. So a lot of times we're new to a situation, but I expect myself to look like a vet, look like someone who's been here 10, 15, 20 years on the job. That's not realistic. You see that with couples. You want to be the couple that's been together 20 years. Oh, I know him so well. You learning yourself still. How you know him? Everything about him.
Right.
Come on. You don't know everything about him. You don't know everything about yourself. Or I want that to be, so now we have that unrealistic expectation based on not being honest with ourselves, not being honest with each other. So I think the more honest we are, the more we can set more realistic expectations and give ourselves some of that time to understand and to learn and to grow. Because we recognize more honestly, like, yeah, day one on the job, I'm probably not going to know what someone year 10 knows.
Mm-hmm.
I can't expect to. Not especially not if I'm checking my ego and being honest about it. But 5 years in, I hope there's some progress, right? So that's another checkpoint. Because if it ain't no progress in 5 years, I tell my clients all the time, if you've been with me for an extended period of time and you ain't made no progress, please drop me quickly. I'm not the one for you. Something is not helping. Why would you be in therapy 10, 20, 30 years and ain't nothing changed?
They just like to talk.
Something. Same for relationships, though. You have to look at that. Why are we connected? Work, family, friends, whoever. If we're in an extended time relationship, there needs to be some change, or else that's like something is not being done, right?
Right.
So I think it goes into being honest with ourselves too. It's like it goes to fear. We're scared to step out into something new or different.
Yes.
Yes. So good. Yum, yum, yummy.
Fred said, Sherry is a surgeon with her words. Love her. Queen Quita said, if you don't water plants, they wither. So does not nourishing self. Pour into you, water your mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. That's why I love that fly. Ooh, love yourself first.
First,
You can't pour yourself out of an empty cup. How am I pouring your cup out?
Come on down. Yes.
I can, but also I can't pour out everything in my cup because then I have nothing left for myself.
Overflow. You get the overflow.
Right.
You have to get the overflow. You have to. And that's where society is messed up with some of these even ideas and expectations. Because even what you said, if I'm always available to you, if I'm always there for you, I'm depleting myself. That's not, I haven't taken care of myself, so I'm not giving you any of my best stuff either, right?
That's
so
right.
I have to take care of myself and put myself first. That's not selfish. It's actually helpful for all of us.
Absolutely. They say put on your oxygen mask first, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes into not being overly humble because, to be honest, they don't tell the kids to put the oxygen mask first. They tell the adults to, because there's knowledge and information and resources in adults that are not in the child, right?
Yes.
So you have to know your skills and talents.
Yes.
If I'm the most knowledgeable in this area, I need to put my mask first so I can help you. If you're the most knowledgeable in this area, you need to put your mask on first so that you can help the rest of us survive.
Absolutely.
But we don't like to be put in our lanes, and that's where releasing control comes from too. I'm not knowledgeable about everything. So every conversation does not need to involve Sherry.
Come on now.
Certain conversations might, but certain conversations I need to just be quiet and listen, take notes.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I know my lane. If you start asking me about cars, I love cars, but I'm not about to be the expert talking. I'm just going to be more quiet, observant, listening, taking knowledge in. Okay, and now I can apply it. But that's the hard part of letting go. If we're still trying to build ourselves up, we're not recognizing this isn't your area right now.
Yeah.
Not ever, but right now.
Just right now. Absolutely. So that toxic heroism syndrome is what I like to call it. I'm actually going to be talking about that on Saturday. I need to be there for everybody and doing everything and feeling like that's our place. It's no, absolutely not. What they, oh my gosh, where's my heart button? I'm just saying, I just be wanting the heart and send fire emoji. I'm gonna have to do it in the comments myself. Like, everything that they were just saying was just so, again, on point and in alignment. I thought of two different formulas, if you will, when we're talking about change, and you all have said it. I mentioned before, my husband, Dr. Robert Louis Evans III. I love him. Gotta send my king some love. He's manning down the house while I am here, you know. But he has a formula that he developed. He has a workbook that's called intentionality. And the king has said it. Travis had talked about this. His formula is self-awareness plus desire equals intentionality.
Yeah, love it.
And that's basically what you said earlier. So I'm over here squirming in my seat like, it makes so much sense. You have to be aware of this thing that needs to be changed. And you have to have the desire to want to change it.
For sure,
and then those two things married together. Because, you know, it's funny. A lot of us are aware of our shit, right? Can we be honest? We know some of our stuff. Well, that's just the way that I am. Ah! Don't we have a come on?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, yes, that's the way that you are, but do you have the desire to change it? Do you see the benefits of actually changing it? And then if you have that desire married with that awareness, that's when you can choose to be more intentional about your actions. How do I absolutely make things happen? So that was the first formula that I thought about when you asked that question about how do I begin to change those things. And then I have my little, I won't say little, I have my steps that I help my queens with. That's the 5 pillars of fly. I created these 5 pillars within that first loving yourself concept. It's one, it starts with self-awareness. You said that too, Queen Sherry, right? You have to be everything starts with being self-aware. But the second stage is forgiveness. We have a tendency to be locked into the mistakes that we've made in our past. And it's hard for us to push forward because we haven't even forgiven ourselves for that past mistake. So how can I be, experience that change when I'm still, damn, I messed up, right? It's hard for you to do that. That third stage is called self-correction. That's when we start creating those boundaries and limiting access to the core of who we are, right? We have to start saying, you know what? You're not allowed in my VIP section. Nope, that's not how I should act as, this new individual that I am attempting to be. The person that I hung out with before, the things that I listened to, the things that I ate, the things that, I allow pour into me, I have to create some boundaries. Mom and them, cousin them, no. No, right? The fourth part is that self-love component. That is the part where I'm going to start doing self-development. I'm going to invest in the people and things that is going to push me towards that change. I'm going to go get a therapist. I'm going to get life coaches. I am going to go back to school and get that education so that change that I am attempting to attain is going to be sustainable. And then that fifth part, it's all about maintaining. It's the self-maintenance. It's saying every single day, I am going to start this cycle all over again. It does not stop, right?
Yeah.
This being first loving yourself is the ing. It's a continuation. It is a maintaining. In the morning, I'm going to start with me again. I'm going to forgive myself again for the dumb mistakes that I made just yesterday, right? And you're going to continue that cycle all over again. And that's how you, for me, ultimately embrace that change. That's how you get to that change.
That's awesome.
I love it.
I love that.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. Okay, y'all.
So I told you this was my church right here, boy.
Right. Amen.
I'm over here writing notes. I'm listening
Right.
to
This
y'all.
one, I'm like,
that's good.
I love these. I'm so
Hey,
glad it's kind of
okay,
confusing
so
because I definitely feel like this would help myself. It's like you said, it's forgiving. It's reminding ourselves of those things we got to do as well. Absolutely.
I'm gonna add one more thing. Before I do though, I want to know, those of y'all who are watching, are y'all gonna come back? If you're coming back, give me any color heart. If y'all gonna come back to a live, any color heart, any color heart. If y'all got something from the live, throw a heart.
Can I send my heart?
Right.
Where's my heart?
I'm gonna repost it. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna add this too. So for me, a big part of me shifting my perspective and so that it would allow me to change the lens in which I was viewing things and the way I was behaving towards them, was to know, one, that my experiences weren't invalid, right? And that and that I wasn't wrong. I had a big thing with and I still do, right? Like that's still a thing for me. That my truth and my experience isn't necessarily wrong, right? It may not be getting me to the end result that I want, and therefore I need to shift some things, but I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
and I was
I love
really
that.
tied to that right and wrong thing for some reason. I can't tell you why, but I guess because to be wrong, right? Like for somebody to tell you that your experience is wrong or your truth is wrong and validate your whole experience, right? So it's like you're never being heard, seen, and understood, which is a core need of all of us as humans. So I had to let go of that thought that by bringing in another perspective or shifting my mindset didn't invalidate my experience. It was just getting me
Wonderful.
right to the end result that I actually wanted.
Oh yeah,
I was
I think that is so important.
that's
It
fantastic.
goes to self-esteem, right? Because people don't think self-esteem is that big of a deal, but it's everything, right? If I don't even think my experience is valuable or important, or if I don't even think I can, that goes to self-awareness. If I'm not aware of that I'm able, that I have power, that I have value, that I have worth, I don't really have a reason to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the psychological, that's going to be part of our next conversation, because that's psychological warfare, which is why we think it. Because the moment we've been on the scene, we've been told how we're worthless.
Yes.
In every way. The moment a life is taken, we're instantly telling all the reasons it's valid that life was taken. I don't care why, like, you talking about something they did when they was 8, 10, 12. I don't care if they did it yesterday. It doesn't validate taking that life. But now we feel like our life is not meaningful and purposeful unless whatever. There's always got to be this extra thing to validate ourselves in our life. We have to have a skill, a talent, income level, this, and this, whatever this thing is, and now we chase it. And I think what you said is so powerful, because even going to Maslow's hierarchy, if I don't have certain senses within me, I can't get to none of that other stuff.
Yep.
Yes.
So if I don't even have
Basic.
certain basic things, that's going to influence my thought process and my ability to see that I can do things a certain way. And that's what makes all three, like for everyone here, it's a miracle. There's something that shifted your perspective based on all these things trying to stop you and prevent you from getting to your goals and accomplishing everything that you were meant to accomplish. We weren't supposed to be here. That's what's a miracle, because something pushed you through anyways, and now we get to have these conversations that help others to see it too. But it's a blessed privilege, because some people don't get to see it. You know, some
Yes.
people can't reach that point on their own, which is why we try to help them. But I wish it was easier, you know, sometimes for people to see that, like to believe that they can, because they can. But if they've never been told it, never been taught it,
Seems impossible.
it seems impossible.
Yep.
I was fighting back the tears, the whole invalid. That was my first book that I have not completed. I took an insert and I took an excerpt and made an ebook of it, but it was called Invalid Validation. Who are you looking to for validation?
Ooh, I like that.
And it talks about that whole concept of how we look for validation in others. But when you start to break down the term and what it truly means, all of those thoughts and different perspectives are technically invalid. They don't know your struggle.
Yep.
They don't know everything that you persevered from, through. They don't know what you had to, they don't understand. So them taking this ideal and saying, you're not successful, you're not this person, or you're not, or us, because actually it was a reflective book. It's a reflective book. It was like, Vaughn, are you tripping? And it was my experience from being in the IT industry, right? Being in a white dominated male industry. And I was looking for validation from all these other sources, but I'm like, Vaughn, no, they can't tell you that you're an overcomer, because they didn't understand that you did not want to wake up the next day. They can't say that you deserve this reward, because they don't understand what you went through as a child, molestation. And so that's why I'm over here in tears, like fighting back tears. I'm over here fanning, not because I'm hot, but to your point, Queen, having that conversation with yourself and saying, my experience is very much valid. My perspective is very much valid, and no one around me can invalidate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hand claps. Yay.
I love that.
Beautiful.
What did Shaq? I don't know if y'all seen that interview that Shaq that was circulating on social media, but what did he say? If a nobody can tell us somebody.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, did you saw that?
Oh, I love me some
Yeah,
Shaq too. I love Shaq.
I
I
saw
didn't
that.
see it. What was the quote?
He said, if a nobody can tell us somebody something, dang it. If a nobody can,
I know, I can't remember.
if a nobody can tell us somebody something, then a nobody. I gotta find it. I'm gonna share it in my stories tomorrow. I'm gonna find it and share it in my stories tomorrow because it was powerful and it's right on. It was right along the lines of what we're talking about right now.
Oh, I love it.
Nicole says, if you didn't walk in my shoes, you can't tell me how to tie them. Vaughn, you took a seat. Queen said you took a seat at the table, but you weren't invited. Like Michelle Obama said, if you take the seat, you better have something to say. Boop. I like that. I love that. All right, so we're gonna get ready to wrap this thing up. Tonight was amazing. Again, Sherry and Travis, you know, y'all my booze, y'all my partners, partners in crime. I appreciate y'all. Coach Vaughn, thank you for your yes.
Yes. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, y'all, as well. This was so much fun and definitely was looking forward to this. Thank you so much, Queen Tisa, for your collaboration, because this is just the beginning. Because she's definitely coming over to my platform. This is just the beginning.
I like it.
I want to ask though, did anybody want to put any plugs before we end this live? If y'all that are on this live are not following all of us on here, each other, please do so. All of these people are very, very, very empowering, encouraging spirits with a lot of light and a lot of love and a lot of wisdom to share. So if you guys were fed tonight, please allow yourselves to continue to be fed by following all of us and then joining us back on lives. Coach Vaughn does lives I feel like 7 days a week. No, not really.
This month I have.
Please, actually, I was going to say, because I do have my poetry book and my website with my clothes, but I actually want you to put your, Coach Vaughn, sorry, I don't want to point, but if you could drop your books as well so people can pick up your books that you were mentioning or even your husband's book.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm again just excited. My heart is full. I've learned so much from you, all three of you. Trust me, I was over here taking notes as well and, listening to it all. And even though there's so many similarities, there's still so much room for me to continue to grow. So I love the collaboration. I love the partnership. And thank you so much for being so inviting and welcoming me on your platform. I have been going 7 days a week. So as we all know, the month of May, if you didn't, the month of May is Mental Health and Fitness Health Month. My husband and I were very big on the two. We are collaborating, and this is something we'll talk about. I know, Tisa, we talked about this as well. We're part psychology, sharing with you the simple psychology you need to get fit. And the theme and the thought behind this is you'll never be able to physically accomplish what you're not mentally prepared to do.
Ooh,
so
I love that.
For the month of May, we're bringing together experts, right? Queen Sherry, she said it. I don't got to know it all. All I got to do is be connected to the correct resources and sources and bring them together to collaborate on a platform. So if you're following me, you can do two things. You can go to the link in my bio. Once you go to the link in my IG bio, on the second right-hand side, you will see a calendar of events. It's a square. You click on it. It'll take you to a Google Calendar. You'll see all of the guests. We have around about 30 guests. We have mental health professionals as well as fitness professionals that is there to share free information with our community. We are talking about getting the bag, but if our mental, if our physical is all over the place, it is only going to be temporary. So that is our mission. That's why I've been going live 4 days a week, 2 times a day. All of the
Dang.
schedule is there. You'll see we have gut health professionals, we have doctors, we have people talking about juicing and stretching, and everything is there. So I just ask you all to come there and support and get the free resources.
Amen.
It is available to you. It is available to you. So that's really my only ask for today. You'll find more information about my husband, his books, his works there too. But we need to get your mental right. We need to get you right so we can get you right holistically. Amen. So thank you so much again.
Amen. Quita said, is the abundance deck sold out? The abundance deck affirmation cards, they sold out?
They are not sold out. They are not sold out. I had a pre-launch portion. Those did sell out because you would get my affirmation mobile app. I have that. Thank you so much for asking. Again, my mind is on this mental health, right? I forget about all the other stuff that I have going on. But that pre-package, I have an affirmations mobile app. I'm very intentional about how I affirm over myself, those I'm connected to, and what it is that we feed into ourselves, right? It's very, very big. It's a simplistic way to really build yourself up or tear yourself down, right? So they are still available. If you have any issues, you should not with the ordering, again, please reach out to me and let me know. That is about financial abundance. That's about us, having the discussion about money, because again, from trauma, from past, we don't have the money conversations. And if we have them, it's the root of all evil. No, it's not. It is a tool that will help us take our community to where it needs to go. It's for us to help build our legacy. So it's a wealth discussion with yourself and helping you to release anxieties affiliated with financial abundance.
Yes. Sherry, can you mention the clothing line's Instagram? I'm gonna tag it. I do always tag it when I post these lives. But Sherry, can you mention the clothing line's Instagram page, the Black Collective?
Sure. It's the Black Collective. It's a brand that I put together similar to what we're talking about, bringing our communities together, branding together, Black businesses together, for healing in a global way. So the shirt, like I have clothing, mugs, t-shirts, books, and my book is for sale on the website as well. But a lot of it is concepts and slogans to kind of challenge our perspective and our point of view. Some of it is even built on specific things I've been called or names I've been labeled as. So it's sort of just concept of embracing the label, not caring what people think or say or feel about you, but just sort of kind of moving forward in your own journey and on your own path. So yeah, we have the shirt that I was talking to you guys about. It says, celebrating as much as we've suffered. And it just kind of built out of that idea that we talked about, that we suffer so much in our community, but we need to celebrate as much as we can. So yeah,
I love that.
I love it.
Wow, celebrate.
There's journals for people, like even I know Coach Vaughn said journaling. There's definitely some journals. So I hope people, at least, not even if it has to be mine, whoever's, but definitely that's one of those first steps when we recommend how to start changing, writing down your raw thoughts. Just write down, don't even try to change what you say, just put your raw thoughts, because people will always say when I say something out loud or when I see it on paper or I say it to someone else, it sounds different. And I know my original journals, I don't even like to look at, because I'm like, I can't believe I was saying that to myself. I can't even believe I was talking to myself and treating myself that way. It's embarrassing to me, at least sometimes, to go back and look through them, but it helps to track our progress, like you said, and it shows this is where we've come from.
Right.
This is our growth. Even for prayers, sometimes I'm like, oh, I was praying this 2 years ago and I didn't even pay attention. It was answered. I done moved on to the next thing, and I'm over here obsessing over this next thing, and I didn't realize you've been answered that.
Yes.
So it's another thing that can help track our progress. So
Keita said, Sherry, will you sign my book? I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely, for sure. If someone wants to order a book, you can always tell me first, because I could always order it and sign it and then send it to you, and you can just cash out me the money afterwards. That way, because I do have a few people who've asked for signed copies, and I'm like, they already ordered it. So it's like, once we meet up, I can sign it. Because I just self-publish straight through Amazon, but in the future we'll learn, because I do need to just order some copies so I can just have them to give out.
Okay.
Yeah. We said baby steps. That's
right.
We'll probably be listening to you for some of them abundance and other ways to grow. because that's on it too. I think it goes with mental health already.
It does.
You know, mental health, absolutely
It does.
goes hand in hand.
She says, "What's your Cash App?" So, Keita, if you can follow Sherry and send her a message, she can let you know what her Cash App is. Because unless Sherry, you know what it is off the top of your head, I don't know what mine is.
It's Nique, NIQUE 9772, but with a dollar sign.
Hey.
So, yeah.
My
nickname and our birthdays.
Oh. I don't even know mine by heart. That's terrible. All right, yeah. So again, thank you. Oh, she said I just did.
Okay.
Thank you guys for tapping in tonight. You guys were amazing audience. Y'all were engaged. I hope y'all got something from it. Y'all comments was on point. I hope that Virgo. I hope that you guys, we will be having another conversation like this, normalizing healing for our culture, in 2 weeks. Not next Friday, but the Friday after that. So I don't know what the topic is yet, but we'll be sure to let you know as soon as we confirm that. But I promise you, it will be just as much fire as it was tonight. So make sure y'all come back here in 2 weeks. Thank you guys so much, and have a good night.
Wonderful evening.
Bye.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
You too.